Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as was the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, let's just dive in and let's start off with this tweet here from myself. So you guys probably remember this tweet. It was back in August, actually. It was the end of August. And I was heavily focusing on BRICS. This did not get a lot of love. It did not get a lot of attention, and I'm totally fine with that. So it got pretty much overlooked. Now, what I said was breaking. South Africa's leader confirms that the BRICS have reached agreement on the expansion process. We have reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and procedures of the BRICS expansion process. Now, what I said was significant changes in motion. Too many are blinded by the false idea of de-dollarization and the downfall of the US to see the real play at hand. We are seeing a complete realignment of our global financial system. Remember that the United Nations, dating back to 2019, said that they are pushing for a new global reserve regime based on a supranational currency made up of a basket of developed nation currencies. Very key. Do you think it's a coincidence that we are now seeing a financial war beginning? How many articles have been posted this year talking about de-dollarization and the death of the US dollar? Problem, reaction, solution. This is all part of the game. I have mentioned this countless times. We are witnessing the beginning to the new system dominated by digital utility assets. I hope you have been focused on the real picture. Now, let's go to this video that just got posted yesterday, or actually now 2 days ago. This got posted by Nerd Nation Unbox within the XRP community. And we do see, damn, must listen. The events that are happening are intentional while they keep everyone distracted with division. Wake up, people. Check this out.
How the hell else, Daniela, do you get everyone who watches your show who said, I'm not taking a CBDC, not a chance in hell? Well, guess what? The $155 trillion in debt that the U.S. has, $32 trillion on balance sheet, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions, $120 trillion, that's owed to the American public. Mostly. And as China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia dump treasuries, who's buying them all? The American public. So if you create an event, purposely, knowingly, you push away Saudi Arabia, you create this event where the dollar, we're not clinging to the privilege of the world reserve currency, just like the #1 economic advisor in this country would like. Instead, we are incentivizing de-dollarization and ultimately that moment where there's an event created, where by the government's own admission, we have $5 trillion in assets backing $155 trillion in debt. The largest asset, 40% of our assets are student debt. What I'm getting at is you create an event because you'll never pay that debt off, ever. There's no way you can pay that off without completely getting rid of entitlements and stop spending and do all of these things that won't work in this country. So you create an event, you have a villain. Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC, how could they have done this to us? They dumped the dollars, look what they've done, and bang, everything collapses. And everything collapses at the exact same time. Stocks, bonds, real estate, the dollar, pensions, 401ks, the banks, everything. But have no fear, because Lael Brainerd is here, and she's a modern monetary theorist who ran Point for Fed now, has been dealing with the CBDC with MIT, and all you need to do is sign on the dotted line and we'll make you whole. In other words, what I'm getting at is, could this have all been thought out? How else do you reset? How else do you find a villain to blame for the collapsing of the system that allows you to default and start over and allows the American people to be made whole by signing on to a modern monetary theorist's dream of a central bank digital currency? Sign on the dotted line, we make you whole. So I guess all I'm saying is this. I do believe it's going to happen. And I think there'll be a tremendous amount of pushback for those who would otherwise willingly take it. But what if there was an event that put everyone at the same place where you have no choice to take it or to be broke, to be busted, to be screwed? So yeah, I think there's a fine line between conspiracy and reality, and I check myself when I say this, but the more I think about it, and the more you look at the two people who are the #1 and 2 advisors to this country, one wants to get rid of the banks and go modern monetary theory, central bank currency, and one wants to shed the world reserve currency. You couldn't draw it up any better in a Hollywood script to what's happening if that's indeed what you wanted to do.
And I know that that was a little bit, longer of a clip, but I want you all to realize, like, this is the plan at hand. They're not telling you things up front. They're creating this conflict. They are creating this problem, and it's just to rug the traditional system so that they can usher in this new system. And I think that we've already started to kind of see this realization. I think some of the biggest news that we've seen recently that kind of confirms our thought process on this was Ripple joining the BIS Cross-Border Payments Task Force. I know that I brought this up multiple times, but the reason I bring this up is because of how crucial this is to talk about. Like, this is talking about cross-border payments interoperability. Like, this is big. And outside of this, right, like, you have so many names tied to this. Like, these are some names that Ripple has already been working with, for an example, like RTGS Global, for an example, MasterCard as well. And these are some very large players, right? Outside of this, we already know that Ripple was mentioned on this BIS document. It's the only crypto asset mentioned in terms of XRP, right? That was mentioned on this with Ripple. And the only other one was USDC, which was a stablecoin, right? And Stellar did get mentioned, Bitcoin did get mentioned, but it's in a different light. Here you guys have the BIS Monetary and Economic Department, July 2023. This is trust bridges and money flows. And the topic here was three models arise: a private settlement asset and marketplace such as Ripple's XRP. Then they talk about the open source marketplace such as Stellar Foundations, or more recently, DeFi Network. What's interesting about this, though, right, is when we look at a few of the documents that got posted by the BIS, one really kind of comes to me, which is January 18th, 2022. And this is digital currencies and the soul of money. This is definitely an interesting document, or I shouldn't say document, but article. This got posted by Augustin Carstens. Now, I want to skip ahead, and I really want to go down to this part here. So these are the three plausible scenarios for the future of money. The big one here is, in the first, big tech stablecoins compete with national currencies and against each other too, fragmenting the monetary system. So this is out, right? This first one's already out. The second relates to the elusive promise of crypto and decentralized finance, or DeFi, which claims to offer a financial system free from powerful intermediaries, but may actually deliver something very different. And then the third realizes the vision of an open and global monetary and financial system that harnesses technology for the benefit of all. You could probably guess which vision I espouse. I will close by discussing what it will take to achieve it. Now, they talk about big tech stablecoins. They actually talk about why this wouldn't really work because of the fragmentation. They also talk about control aspects, like, for example, like China as well. They talk about a few things around this. And we do see, let me be clear, it is undesirable to rely solely on private money. Users may initially find great convenience in paying with a big tech global stablecoin, but in doing so, they may be handing the keys to our monetary system over to private entities, driven by profits and accountable only to their shareholders and other insiders, such as an arrangement could erode trust, a public good like money needs oversight with the public interest in mind. And then here we have DLT, DeFi, crypto. The second plausible scenario for the future of money has attracted a growing number of enthusiasts. The vision replaces institutions with DLT, in principle allowing anyone to be a validator in a shared network. It is embodied in the growth of cryptocurrencies and applications that build on them, such as the so-called decentralized finance, or DeFi. Now, at the end here, right, they talk again about stablecoins and how they may not be sound money. I actually don't think that fiat currency even is sound money as well. But at the end, they do say a better approach is possible. Building on sound money, new applications could stand on a stronger footing. And then they do talk about, how it should not be based on anonymous payments and things like that. They also talk about identification and trust, and they should comply with financial regulation that is designed to keep the system safe. Wherever private stablecoins are issued, they need to be adequately regulated to address the risk that they pose, such as runs, payment system risk, and concentration of economic power. We also need effective and consistent international policy on stablecoin arrangements, which, by the way, we're already kind of starting to see that with the global stablecoin regulations and stuff like that. Ultimately speaking, when we really kind of look at this, I would argue that we're getting closer to having all of this in place. But then, last but not least, this is probably the one that they're looking at, which is an open and global system as a public good. Now, within this, incumbent financial institutions, big techs, and new innovative entrants compete in an open marketplace that guarantees interoperability, building on central bank public goods. This means that end users can seamlessly interact across different providers, but both domestically and across borders. Very interesting. Now, we do see this scenario harnesses the benefits of big data and DLT with market structures that foster competition and promote the public good nature of the monetary system. Remember the level playing field? But you see, in this vision, the monetary system is not fragmented into separate walled gardens. Again, eliminating that, which eliminates, the idea of like JP Morgan having a stable coin that kills XRP, for example. No. And what you see at the core of the system are central banks. They do not aim for profits, but to serve society. They have no commercial interest in personal data. They act as operators, overseers, and also catalysts in payments markets and regulate and supervise private providers in the public interest. Now, this is where we do see CBDCs. We talk a little bit about CBDCs themselves. And then down here, very interesting, the BIS Innovation Hub is working actively to make this vision a reality with several experiments involving cooperation between central banks and the private sector. Again, really kind of building upon the idea of the private-public involvement within this. They do talk about a lot of the projects here. They also talk about the DLT prototypes tied to it. Overall, I do think that their goal is right over the target in terms of what we have talked about with Ripple, right? We do see 3 important BIS Innovation Hub projects all make use of a DLT platform upon which multiple central banks issue their own wholesale CBDCs so that they can be traded between participants to enable faster, cheaper, and safer cross-border settlements. Interesting. And down here, we do see the conclusion, which is just the idea around this. They want to make sure that the design of money has consequences that concern all of society, but they want integrity and stability of money and payments, market concentration, consumer rights, and efficiency. And central banks must work with other public authorities and private stakeholders to make this vision I have described a reality. So this is where we do start to see them working with the private sector. Those private sector players, in my opinion, are all of these major players around the infrastructure. And you do see Ripple being a key player around this. But then also, just recently, Anderson actually posted this breakdown. And of course, you have a few images here. Here you guys have Augustin Karsten's. This is talking about the future monetary system. This got posted back in June of 2022. There's also a new report on this from 2023. But you see, instead, they must be incentivized through monetary rewards that are high enough to sustain the system of decentralized consensus. This is where we talk a little bit about how the proof of stake is not or it cannot be held accountable under the law. They also talk about how this is not a way to go about things. But you see, the only way to channel rewards to validators, thus maintaining incentives, is to limit the capacity of the blockchain, thus keeping fees high, sustained by congestion. The best way to incentivize is no incentivization. And here we have XRP, the only one within like the top 13 as being a key player. And we do see coins that do not rely on monetary rewards for validators or mining, and XRP is the only one. And over here, July 2023, cross-border payments interoperability and extension task force composition, we do see Ripple, the only participant with a jurisdictionless public crypto asset. Key here is huge. Something that has been on my mind for a long time, which I've mentioned before, is the fact that the BIS released a report named the Future Monetary System, where they went into detail about their opinion about crypto assets. In my opinion, this is something you should really pay attention to, simply because the BIS is arguably the world's most important financial institution, often called the central bank for central banks. A lot of people weren't too happy simply because it appeared that their conclusion in the report weren't that positive regarding crypto. I believe most people missed the most important conclusion, simply that according to the BIS, the inherent limitations of crypto is the system is incentive structure. And yes, right, like the incentive structure is not a way of going about, the future monetary system, if you will. Meaning crypto assets rely on monetary rewards for validators to achieve consensus. What they never mentioned in the 2022 report is that there are very few coins where this isn't the case. XRP-L and XLM are 2 rare exceptions, where no monetary rewards are used to achieve consensus. XRP is the only asset in the top 10 where this is the case. David Schwartz's phrase, best incentive is no incentive, is echoing in my head. It's almost like the BIS gave XRP an open goal with their conclusion. A very recent development is that Ripple were included in the BIS Cross-Border Payments Interoperability and Extension Task Force. A very exciting development for Ripple, since they're the only participant with the public jurisdictionless crypto asset, even though there are other participants that are focused on DOT. These two developments together are very interesting to me, to say the least. Makes me wonder what may go on behind the scenes. And we do see down here from Utility for the Win, I like what you were saying. Add to that the recent BIS working paper 1117, an impossibility theorem on truth telling in fully decentralized. Here we guys have the introduction. Incentives to reward consensus do not necessarily make things better. Rather, they lead to a situation that is akin to a beauty contest in which agents report that they think the majority of other agents will report. With or without reporting incentives, the report of the true state that results from the majority voting does not depend upon the true state. Then over here, we do see a conclusion. A completely decentralized system can only function well when agents have no stake in it. While we express this result as an impossibility theorem, it really points to the limit of decentralization. The decentralization of the truth has to be handed to a group of agents who have no other stake in what the truth is than the payment they receive to do their jobs. So again, this is definitely interesting because it really is describing what we've seen around XRP and the XRP ledger forever, which is there really is no incentive. That's the best incentive. And it really goes back to the idea of like true decentralization. A lot of people think that the escrow around Ripple completely kills decentralization around XRP, which is extremely wrong. It's not the idea of Ripple controlling the escrow. They don't control the escrow. That is already programmed in. When we look at XRP, it's the only true asset that is fully decentralized here. And when we look at what the BIS is trying to accomplish here, it seems as though XRP could very well be their bridge currency that they want to utilize for interoperability of this new financial system that they've already been planning for a while. This is definitely interesting. And remember, right? Like Ripple already represents 90% of the FX market. We know this from a recent report. And also when you look at what the FX market actually is, for those that don't know, this is a currencies, right? Like these are currencies in an OTC global marketplace that determines the exchange rate for currencies around the world. So they already control or are in 90% of this market. Think about how big that is. So they've already kind of connected themselves with this massive market, which by the way, it's not 6 trillion, it's like $7.5 trillion. And they've already, blossomed into the 90% range of this market, which means guess what? When it's all said and done, and we finally get into this new area of the financial system, could Ripple become the key player to move all value and bridge all value? It's interesting, right? It's definitely interesting. I think that they're going to be one of many players, right? I don't think that we're going to see Ripple become the dominant force and the only one moving value. No, I think that we're going to start to see more players around this. I think that it's going to be a major collaboration. But it's definitely interesting to note the fact that like Ripple's the only player on this member list with a fully decentralized and jurisdictionless XRP digital asset, right? XRP is crucial here. I think that XRP is the secret sauce around this, and it's definitely interesting. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. I truly believe that a new financial system is upon us. I think that the elites have been telling us this in secret for a very long time. And we already know that we're ushering into the digital age of finance faster than ever before. And we are definitely in interesting times at this current moment in time. So with that in mind, if you guys did enjoy the video, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.